I want to ask you a very basic question right now. Is this an alpha female? Do you actually know what an alpha female is? Why don't we go ahead and correct a few misnomers out there? You know, it always amazes me when people use the term alpha female. Pretty much everybody gets it wrong. The black winosphere, also known to some as the black manosphere, even though there's precious little manhood to be found among those middle-aged juvenile delinquents. But in any case, it has created its own mutually agreed upon fallacy that there's no such thing as an alpha female. Well, they are, of course, as always, totally wrong, and we're going to clear that up. But most of the people saying that there are alpha females, well, they got it wrong too. So why don't we go ahead and get everybody straight, because this is going to be a very good opportunity for us to clarify some things going forward so that you understand exactly what the landscape really is. And many of the things you might have thought you were right about, you're incorrect. And some of the things that you were incorrect about, you actually may have had right to begin with. So why don't we go ahead and just get right into it here. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. Pull up a chair. It's time to get down to the business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And the foundation, the source that laid the foundation for all these red pill, MGTOW, high value posers is here once again to correct a few misnomers. Let's get this straight. There is such a thing as an alpha female. There is. But you have to be clear about exactly what it is that makes you an alpha female and how that is defined. Well, let me go ahead and get right to it. The first thing I want you to understand is that a woman can only be an alpha relative to other women. So there's the hook about it. You cannot be an alpha compared to men. There's where you get it screwed up. This idea that there's a one-to-one direct correlation between what makes a man an alpha and what makes a woman an alpha. Men are alphas, and remember, I had to define this. You won't get this over there in the winosphere. The red pill retreads, Rollo Tomasi, they all got it wrong and had to start updating their lexicons after I corrected them. What makes someone an alpha? How do we define being an alpha? Because an alpha has a specific definition. And if you've been overdosing on the red pill, it's time to open the black book. Time for you to detox and open the black book. What makes someone an alpha? To my longtime students here at the School of Power Dynamics, what is it that qualifies someone as an alpha? Notice I didn't say a man, I said someone. What is it that defines a person as an alpha? Well, an alpha is defined very simply, power. That is the element. Show me an area of your life where you do not have power, and I will show you where you're not an alpha. Which is why we've coined the term professional alpha. There are people, men particularly, that at their jobs, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer, he's barking out orders, he talks to people he's looked up to, he's respected, he's admired. He goes home and he starts simping and begging, and he's in the fetal position. Can you define him as a true alpha when his woman has the ability to put him in the fetal position and he's terrified? So he has no problem looking men and women in the eye at the job, at his profession. He goes home and this woman he cowers in front of. Well, we would not define him as a true alpha. We would define him as a professional alpha. But there are gaps, there are holes, there are problems. So he's not a real alpha. He's a partial alpha, a professional one. Then there are emotional alphas. Then there are intellectual alphas. What you're looking for is to have balance. Being a true alpha means having balance. A balance of power balanced across your life, where there are not areas of huge gaping weakness. But this is a difference between men and women. And I want to make sure, I know you all have been waiting here for a while. Make sure that you like the program and share this. Very important, because we're going to clear up a lot here tonight. So I know you've been waiting for me. Go ahead and show some love, and let's go ahead and like the program and share this. Let's get our numbers up, because you know they're going to hate it. A woman can express and acquire and achieve power. A woman can do that. What she cannot do, or should I say, it is not in her best interest to pursue what is defined as male power. To some of the slow bus kids just showing up now, understand something. You are slow. You are late. Time for you to learn. There is such a thing as an alpha female, just not the way that certain wrong people have been trying to sell it to you. There is such a thing. Yes, there is, but understand what it's really defined as. The problem comes when a female attempts to define it by male terms, because intrinsically people understand, well, there is a power dynamic between men and women that a female simply cannot bridge no matter what she does. She can't possibly bridge it no matter how she tries. What she's relying on is male acquiescence, but she doesn't have the ability to acquire it on her own. So there's the difference. A woman can only be an alpha relative to other women. So what it is that as a female, you can be the alpha among the other females. You can be the leader of the pack among the other females. That can be you. You take a look at Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, who was the Attorney General of California, then Senator from California, now Vice President of the United States. Well, relative to other females, yes. And relative to the metrosexual state of California, yes. So when you put her in female circles, she's an alpha. How do you know that she's an alpha? First of all, you take a look at the women around her. The women around her, they look up to her. When you see pictures of Kamala Harris, it doesn't matter whether she's in the middle or whether she's off to the side. All the females tend to be turned in her direction. Now, there's one thing to remember. All the females fixate on an alpha. It works with men. It also works with women. People follow an alpha. That's why they're called the alpha. They're the leader, the others follow. So take a look at the body language relative to the others. It's not something they get to choose. You go take a look at, right now you can go to Google Images and pull up any picture of Kamala Harris with other women that you choose to pick up, and you will see the other women's body language. They gravitate to her. They are turned in her direction. In other words, she's the focus. Doesn't matter what time period it is. It doesn't matter what function it is. So she has learned that, and she has established that type of dominance in their area. So understand, yes, a female can be an alpha. Absolutely. They can be an alpha. And they can be an alpha relative to each other. There's where the problem comes in, is if you attempt to translate that outside females. A woman can't be alpha relative to a man because women and men perform different functions. That's the first thing. You can't do what we can do. We perform two totally separate functions. We've created a society where you've been able to exercise a disproportionate amount of direct command, but that's not something you got on your own. That's something that men have allowed for. It's not something you have on your own. You can't keep it one moment longer than the men allow you to. If the woman barks out orders and all the men decide we're not gonna do it, there is no function among the females where they can all gang up and get together. Even if they all ganged up, they couldn't gang up on the men and say, we're going to force you or compel you to do this. Now, men can, but the women cannot compel a group of women cannot compel a group of men to do anything they do not wish to do. You cannot compel them to give you anything they do not wish to give you. So first and foremost, we perform different functions. Secondly, a woman cannot be an alpha relative to a man because you achieve dominance, that is defined as exercising power, in totally different ways. Totally different ways. And it is a woman's ability to master the female method of exercising power that makes a difference. That's what makes a difference. And we're going to go into that here tonight. So the next thing we're going to study here is about an alpha female has men with power competing for her. Now, I want you to take in that entire sentence. Don't pick it apart. Don't dismantle it. Don't disassemble it. Don't deconstruct it. I'll take care of the deconstruction. But take that entire sentence and understand everything in that sentence is there for a reason. You cannot be an alpha female unless men with power. And I'm not talking about some happenstance athlete. Men with power, men who understand the ways and the means of power, men who have options among females because they possess and are able to properly exercise power. When you have those men competing for you, well, that is another key indicator that you are an alpha female. If you want to know where men come into the equation, well, take a look and see if men of power, wealth, influence, status, men of options, if those men are competing for you, then that's a key indicator that you are an alpha female. That's a key indicator. Let's be very, very clear. If you look a certain way, men ain't competing for you. If you act a certain way, men of power, wealth, influence, status are not competing for you. If you behave a certain way, men of resources are not competing for you. And the key word is compete, competition. That these men have gotten themselves to be eminently qualified and eminently capable, and they are using their expertise and their resources to pursue this one female here. She's got men who are capable and competent. Not PJ Washington, men who are competent and capable competing for her, men who don't go around making a bunch of dumb, stupid, simple mistakes. She's got those men competing for her. She's not a legend in her own mind. She's got confirmation from capable men. And let's be clear, being an alpha female has zero value unless it gets you benefits from a man. A woman doesn't want anything from another woman except the positive affirmation that men can see when women look up to her, that women want to be like her. But that's the only thing other women can do for her, is to show the men around her that. And that's an important thing as well, because an alpha female isn't a fool. Now, this one kind of gets messed up in translation a lot of the time. That you get this idea in your head that being snakish and scheming and skullduggerous. Unfortunately, females have to learn to be very deceptive and very deceitful. That's a very dangerous game to play in a world of men, because men rely on honesty and integrity for survival. If you are a man of honesty and integrity and you are surrounded by individuals of low integrity, low honesty, low competence, well, that can serve to be a danger to your life. Your life hangs in the balance. You could find yourself in a very dangerous situation. You could find yourself being sold out. You could find yourself being tricked. You could find yourself in a bad situation that's been instigated against you. So you can't, as a man, we can't tolerate the presence of deceivers. Do you know how many men throughout history have been led to their deaths because they were watching or listening to somebody who walked them into a trap. Think about that for a few moments. You have somebody who sat up here and walked you into a trap. An alpha female isn't a fool. An alpha female isn't stupid. An alpha female knows when she has capable women around her, and she knows the ones who are not, and she uses them. An alpha female takes the measure of men, and she is able to leverage what she needs to be able to get what she requires. She's not stupid. An alpha female doesn't get pregnant by a loser. An alpha female doesn't get pregnant by an incompetent. An alpha female does not get pregnant by a sketchy character. An alpha female doesn't get pregnant by a guy who doesn't produce. Because you see, she's not a fool. She's not a fool. So when there are certain females who attempt to bill themselves as alphas, sell themselves as alpha, get multinational corporations to promote them as alphas, then you take a look under the hood, you take a look at the paperwork, you check the pedigree, you take a look and review the track record, and then you realize, oh, this is no alpha. I can see what's next to you. I can see the decisions you've made. I see the men you qualify for. This is no alpha. I'm taking a look at the results, and this isn't an alpha. You take a look at the results, and that's not an alpha. You can call yourself whatever you want to. Nobody else is going to go along with it. You cannot declare yourself an alpha. Being an alpha is something declared by others. So ladies, if you want to know why it is that men giggle when you talk about being an alpha, it is because if you're an alpha, it's self-evident. Among men, the alphas don't have to say they're alphas. All men acknowledge them a certain way. They don't have to say it. If you have to say it, then you are exposing, oh, you're really not. So understand, an alpha female isn't a fool. An alpha isn't dumb. An alpha female isn't a moron. You can't be a bimbo and be an alpha female. Let me say that again. You can't be a bimbo and be an alpha female. It doesn't work that way. You can be a bimbo and get some handbags and some purses. You might get a sponsor, but you will not be an alpha. So that doesn't apply to you. Don't get it twisted. You can't be a fool and be an alpha female because foolish women go extinct quickly. Women can't afford to be foolish. It is a dangerous world and a dangerous universe. Women cannot afford to be foolish, and they can't afford to be consistently foolish. Now, in this so-called civilized society that men have created, we created a society that is not nearly quite as dangerous or hazardous as it used to be. But let's be very, very clear. As a woman, you can't afford to be foolish, and therefore you can never be an alpha if you have a litany of foolish decisions you've made. You can't have a long track record of foolish decisions and then declare yourself an alpha. People need to see that you know what to do, that you don't make dumb mistakes. And if you've been incapable of doing that, you've disqualified yourself. Next up, an alpha female is admired. Now, you all remember I did a program where I was talking about why women admire men. But the next thing I want you to understand is why it is that a woman is an alpha. An alpha is admired by other women. An alpha is a female who is admired by other women. And from there, it might translate outside of you. But one of the first key things that men are going to look for, are you the female that the others willingly acquiesce to? That the others wish they could be like? That the others start mimicking your ways and start mimicking your practices? Take a look at Beyonce. Beyonce is admired by females. Michelle Obama was admired. More or less, Kim Kardashian was admired as much as they wanted to hate her. Sorry for all the marketing and merchandising she sold and females hurting themselves to imitate her look. Women around the world imitating her, even though she was imitating another group, they wound up imitating her. She was admired. Whether you like it or whether you don't, she was admired. They look up to her. They want to be like her. You started selling more of cars because of her. They talked about the G-Wagon, Kim Kardashian and her family because of them. You start talking about shoes and handbags because of them. So females admire them. Don't mistake cattiness for a lack of admiration. Just because females have intense rivalries and are catty, that doesn't mean they don't admire them. Females spend most of their time hating on the ones they admire. Next question you have to ask yourself as well, are they trying to be like them? So an alpha female is admired. In the chat room, Ernest Kwame said an alpha female is the most feminine female in the group. Well, when she's well put together, yes, she is. Which leads us to an alpha female is not ugly. Now, this will be one that may bother some of you ladies, but an alpha female isn't ugly. Now, that doesn't mean that she has to be an internationally renowned model, but an alpha female is not ugly. An alpha female is well put together for herself. An alpha female is well put together for herself. She is the best version of who she is and what she is. She is the best version of it. She doesn't have to be the richest, but understand, as men, we've met females who were knockouts, working at Big Lots, working at Chick-fil-A. It's got nothing to do with how much money she carries. Has nothing to do with that. It's got everything to do with the fact that she understands what she's doing. There will be some lessons here that we'll be learning here shortly, by the way. But an alpha female is not ugly. An alpha female is well put together for who she is. That's how she ends up leading. Everybody else is trying to do the bare minimum. She's not. Everybody else is trying to figure out how they can get by on next to nothing. She is not. Everybody else is trying to figure out how they can do the bare minimum and succeed. She is not. An alpha female is not ugly. And let's be clear, there are several things that make you ugly. Now, here's where the females start looking for loopholes. Don't start it. Don't start it. Don't start looking for a loophole. There's no such thing as a size 16 alpha. Did I say that? Yes, I did. There is no such thing as a size 16 alpha. There's no such thing as a size 16 alpha female. It's not going to be happening. There's no such thing as a buck-tooth alpha female. It's not happening. There's no such thing as a cross-eyed alpha female. It's not happening. Well, I guess if you wear shades, maybe you can get a pass for that. It depends. But go ahead and refresh your screens there if you haven't already. Go ahead and refresh that. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, An alpha female is not ugly. An alpha female understands that her method of communication is going to be mostly nonverbal. That is what she understands. Therefore, an alpha female knows that she must listen much more than she talks. Because female power is expressed nonverbally. Female power is expressed opportunistically, but it's also expressed nonverbally. And so a female knows that in order for her to acquire power, it's much more important that she listen than the men. I mean, the men can afford to run their mouths a little bit, but they are going to have to listen. She knows she's going to have to listen more than the men do in order to succeed. She's going to have to. When a female decides to do a bunch of talking, then you understand that that's not going to work. A female doesn't elevate her position through talking. She elevates her position through listening. She elevates her position through finding competent individuals, mostly competent men. That's how she elevates herself. She doesn't elevate herself by being a know-it-all. She understands she doesn't. Remember, men gather resources, but women gather resourceful men. That's what gives them power. Find a female who does a bunch of talking, and you are going to find a bunch of female. You're going to find a female who is struggling. I'll say this again. Show me a female who does a bunch of talking, and I will show you a female who spends the majority of her time struggling. Understand that. A female who does a majority of talking and speaking is trying to compensate for what she doesn't have. If she's actually got it, then she's not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking, because she understands that power, that men come to her. When men come to you, you don't have to say a whole lot. You don't have to do a whole lot. All you have to do is be ready when they show up. In the chat room, would Lori Harvey be considered an alpha female? No. Lori Harvey is a cute female. In order to be an alpha, you must exercise power. Lori Harvey has not demonstrated that she exercises any power. She hasn't demonstrated that she exercises any. Let me explain to you exactly what I mean in that regard. If you want to see what an alpha female looks like, if you want to see some very clear examples of alpha females, I brought a few with me. Now, some of you might disagree with some of the examples here. Some of you might disagree with that, but I would caution you to think that over. I would caution you to think it over. Coretta Scott King was an alpha female. Coretta was an alpha. Other women looked up to her. Other men followed her. She was respected. She was admired. She created an image that other people followed in. Now, to some of the uninitiated among us here, in the middle is Mother Teresa. Some of you may be a little too young for that, and I understand. But let's not get anything twisted or misunderstood here. That woman was worshipped. Let us be very clear. That woman was worshipped. If that woman stood up at any congregation, any place, anywhere on this planet and pointed at you and said, he is a sinner and he must die, don't you know every single person there would have risen up and stoned you to death. Let us be very, very clear about that. Some of the short bus kids who go around making mistakes their whole damn lives and saying dumb things because they can afford to on the other side of YouTube. You can afford to be stupid. In the real world, no. No. Understand something. When that woman spoke, that was it. When that woman talked, that was all. She had the papacy bowed to her. Pope John Paul II and the rest of the church bowed to this woman. She was the only person that they acquiesced to. In a church that was ruled by men, and yet this woman, she was able to bring them all to heel. And I'm going to get into the details of why that is. You got a bunch of females out here throwing around their sexuality and can't get anything resembling respect on this planet. And yet that woman lived her entire life with a level of respect, admiration, all the factors I was mentioning there before. She was able to do that. That's not easy. That's not easy. And last but not least, yes, I am being objective. Has nothing to do with what I agree with. Has nothing to do with what I prefer. It has nothing to do with what I hope. Has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that at all. It has everything to do with the fact that it is reality. Oprah Winfrey, alpha female. Alpha female, yes. Doesn't matter about how I feel about her personally. That is long well established. But whether you like it or not, Oprah Winfrey is an alpha. She is a female who she messed up 2 generations of women. Based on the criterion that I gave you, she messed up 2 generations of women, not 1, but 2. Now, you can say that this was not necessarily the best use of your powers. Okay. But Oprah wasn't a fool. Not for what she wanted, for what she wanted and what she was trying to do. Yeah. She certainly was. She was admired. She had men of power and resources competing for her, not competing to marry her. But then again, even if they were, and she kept her power base among other females. She wasn't competing head to head against men. She was competing against other females. MDO, not exactly. Not exactly. So this is being an alpha female the right way. If you want to know what an alpha female looks like properly, this is what it looks like the right way. Well, what does it look like the wrong way? Well, I brought a few examples of that too. Here are a few examples of the wrong kind of alpha female. Here are just a few examples. There's a lot more. But here are a few examples you can chew on of what it means to be the wrong kind of alpha female. Or at least a female who thinks of yourself as one, and this is what's wrong. Now, if you were to go to the mainstream media, Blavity, any of your gossip websites, TikTok or whatever, well, they would tell you why, of course, these are alpha females. Well, of course they are. They're alphas. And the reason that they would define them as alphas is because of one word: dominance. And therein lies the problem. Therein lies the problem. I'm going to come back to that there in just a few moments. But you take a look on your screen, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Cardi B. Well, They would describe themselves as alphas, and their groupies would describe them as alphas, but nobody else would. Kamala Harris is equally disliked by both men and women. Women don't like her, and men don't trust her. Therefore, that's why she could never become president. You're not an alpha. You're just a popular chick in some circles, and you're an alpha in some minor circles, but you're not the right kind. Hillary Clinton, once again, same thing. In the circles that she's in, well, she's admired to a certain degree, but eventually it runs aground. And then Cardi B, who has some capabilities, but also has a level of incompetence in exercising that type of power that just doesn't help you. It just doesn't help you. So if you're going to attempt to define being an alpha as being dominant, just understand that doesn't work for females. Dominance doesn't work for them. Let me explain to you exactly why dominance doesn't work for you, ladies. The reason that dominance doesn't work for you is because an alpha female knows that she shouldn't seek dominance. She should seek influence. Now, when you talk about these other women and whatnot, and folk wrongly use this term alpha female, what they mean is I am dominant. Well, here's the first problem. First off, you are nowhere near as dominant as any competent man is. Let's be very, very clear about that. None of these females, there's no female who is as dominant as a competent man. Pick out any competent man you wish to, anybody from your plumber to the president. If he's competent, and it's been a while since we had a competent president, but if he's competent, there's no woman who is more dominant than a competent man. You can only match an incompetent man when it comes to dominance. Show me a female who claims that she is an alpha and claims that she's dominant among men, and I will show you a female who is found incompetent men and is claiming dominance over incompetent men, but she's not claiming dominance over competent men. When you put her in a room full of competent men, she's a nice gal. She's a nice person, but she's not dominant. So females only use that term dominance when they're in the company of incompetent men. You're never going to be as dominant as a competent man. Why? Because a competent man is willing to die. He's willing to work himself into the grave. He is willing to give up everything and perish to retain it with his own two hands. A female will fight to retain it so long as it doesn't give any calluses, no cuts. Somebody keeps delivering it to her, as long as she keeps getting it delivered. But she has no means and has no method by which she can go out and assert or force dominance. Nor does she have the ability to outwork, outperform, outproduce. She can't do that with men. She can't outwork a man. She can't outproduce him. She can't outproduce him. She cannot outperform him. She can't do that. That's not an option. That's not an option. Now, some folks will try to tell you that an alpha female is one who is quote unquote a natural leader. Once again, you run into problems because that's only relative to other women and children. A woman can be an alpha in a room full of other women. She can be a leader in a room full of other women if they'll let her. Because let's be very, very clear, most females will not follow another female. Let's be very, very clear about that. Dominance among females is very limited. I don't give a damn who you are. Beyonce can get a whole bunch of females to sit up there and dance around and shake their butts and sing her songs and recite her lyrics. But if Beyonce showed up at your house and attempted to delegate authority, oh man, the honeymoon would be over relatively quickly. I don't give a damn who it is. If Beyonce showed up get her in a room or in a house full of 10 of her biggest female fans, don't y'all know they will be trying to physically assault her within the first 4 days? They'll be trying to physically assault her within the first 4 days. That is going to start with who you trying to tell what to do. It would start there. And then it would break down after that. So all these people that when she was in the audience saying, oh, when I sing, you say this, that, and the other. All these people who start off saying that, they would go into all these women saying it, they would go into full-blown rebellion. This is another reason why a woman cannot be an alpha. Because she understands that she's not going to get cooperation from other females. Other females are not going to cooperate with her. Not for an extended period of time. Now, ironically enough, men will. The men will cooperate with her a lot longer and a lot more readily than the females will if she demonstrates competence. She can get the men to cooperate longer because men appreciate competence. But it doesn't matter how right she is, how correct she is, how capable she is. It doesn't matter. If the women don't want to do it, and eventually they will not, the women are eventually going to turn on each other. They're eventually going to turn on each other because they don't handle power, because they don't actually use it for a group phenomena. They use it for individual benefit, not for the group. So it breaks down at that point. Leading is not going to work. So they can only lead in limited amounts with each other. And furthermore, you can only lead relative to women and children, and you can't be the leader of a man at all. A woman can't lead a man at all. You know why? Because the man who allows you to lead him, you will immediately lose all respect and all desire for. If you actually did achieve the goal of getting them to let you lead them, you would abandon all respect and all desire for him. The moment he does it, the second he does it. Hillary Clinton, you take a look at her. Think about this for a few moments. Does Hillary Clinton respect the men who listen to her? Did she respect the men who voted for her? Does she respect the men who advocate for her? Does she respect the men who say, I want to put her in charge? I didn't say, does she find them useful? I didn't say, does she like the admiration? I said, does she respect them? Or does she bully them? Does she dress them down? Does she emasculate them and condescend to them even worse? Kamala Harris. Does Kamala Harris respect, for all the dudes who thirsty for her way over the hill, but all right, for the fellas out there doing that, go, she cute. Does Kamala Harris respect any of them? It was amazing because those were mostly black males and she's married to a white man. Been married to a white man. So she used downtown Willie Brown, but she ultimately married a white man. So the men who didn't have a problem letting her lead them, the men that she was able to finagle and maneuver her way into positions of power over, once she got power over them, she didn't respect them. She had more disdain and more contempt for them. Now, I will tell you who she did respect. She damn sure respects those white men over her, doesn't she? Gavin Newsom, Joe Biden. Remember when you had those women talking about Joe Biden was filling them up? Kamala Harris was like, I believe those women. Soon as Joe Biden made her his vice president, tell them hoes get out of here. We don't believe in that, y'all. All of a sudden, Joe Biden was the greatest thing in the world. Yeah, that's not just power, that's respect. She showed the rest of them, I don't respect you. I believe you. Okay, really? She's like, I believe you and it don't matter. It doesn't matter if I believe you. Because there's nothing to be gained by believing you. I want you to think about that for a few moments. That might sound horrifically cynical, but this is reality. It might sound horrifically cynical, but this is reality. That she literally sat there and was like, okay, I believe y'all, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're telling the truth. It doesn't matter if you're right. It doesn't matter if you're being truthful. At the end of the day, I don't respect it. Remember what I said about men and dominance. We're willing to die for those things. We're willing to die for them. We won't compromise on it. She didn't make it out of the room before she sold out all the other females. Did you notice that? The men knew full damn well, oh, this heifer is cheaper than the $2 hooker. It's not going to be no problem to yank her back in line. And she sure as hell is. So I hope she enjoys her time as vice president. She will go no further. But to anybody who says that being an alpha female is about dominance and about leading, that doesn't work for you. You can be an alpha, but you're describing masculine characteristics of an alpha. Those are things that females depend upon. Females need a man who is going to be physically dominant. Let's be very, very clear. At the end of the day, a female needs a man who is going to be physically dominant. A man who, if all else fails, he can physically impose his will. That has value to a female. That has value to women. A man has absolutely no interest, no use, and puts no value in a female attempting to impose her physical will. He doesn't believe you can do it. He doesn't trust it. He knows it can't happen. It has no value. These are things that have value to females. They don't have any value to men. Therefore, you can't rely on that as something that will enhance you as an alpha female. You can be an alpha female, but it only applies relative to other women. And to the extent that you have, what enhances you among other women is your ability to be desired and worked with by men. If the only people who work with you are other females, your alpha female shelf life is going to be very short and very, very rough. Beyonce can be an alpha female because men don't dislike her. Men will work with her. Men will collaborate with her. Most of Beyonce's female fans can't get a man to collaborate on a quesadilla for their benefit. Beyonce can get men to collaborate on millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. She can actually achieve that. Meanwhile, her fan base cannot. But it goes a little bit deeper than that. This goes a little bit deeper, and I want us to dissect this one a little bit more. Why an alpha female doesn't seek dominance, she seeks influence. The reason why she doesn't seek dominance is because she understands that trying to be dominant makes you a target of other women and men. Now, that's a hell of a dangerous position to be in. To be a female who is trying to be a target. Is a woman built to be gunned for day and night, 24/7? Yeah, it's real cute when you make rap songs about it, but a woman ain't built to be a constant target. She can't handle that type of stress. She's not going to be able to maintain her feminine disposition, constantly knowing that people are for real gunning for you. That they ain't got no love for you. Women don't deal well with a bunch of snakes around them. Let me explain to you exactly how that works there. You see, when it comes to men, men can sit at the table of a Judas without busting him in the damn head. We know what he is. We know what he's about. We know this nigga's a snake, but men can maneuver in that. Females cannot do that for any. We can maneuver with that and never let on to him that we gonna make a move. When you take a look at the mafia, when you take a look at militaries, when you take a look at politics, when you take a look at business, females, if a female got it in for another female, they gonna come to blows within a day or two. They can't hang with each other at all. If there isn't a man present or available to talk them down, they are gonna be at it every damn day. They're going to be at it all the time, and don't put them close together. Anybody who's had a couple of catty ass females at your Thanksgiving dinner, you know damn well you can't put those two cousins together. You can't put those two aunts together. You can't put those two sisters together. They can't. A woman is not going to overlook that. When you let her know she's a target, when you let her know there's something she's got that you want, or vice versa, it's war. It's war. There's no pretense. There's no camouflage. It's war. It's on and going. It's not just on and popping. It's on and rolling. Like a runaway freight train. World Star Hip Hop is full of a bunch of videos of females who made each other targets and eventually were like, yeah, damn all this fakeness. Damn all this discipline. Many of you at your jobs, there's a reason why you can't have two female managers at a job. You can't have a female regional manager coming to talk to a bunch of females at a lower level. You can't have it. And if she is, she's got to be real light-handed. The corporation has to pick a female who's real light-handed. You can't choose a real heavy-handed chick. You can't really do that because all the others are going to be sitting up there fighting her the whole time. She's immediately going to become a target. Immediately. So females, alpha females, not just females, an alpha female understands that she doesn't want dominance. Because dominance is going to make you a target. It's going to put a bullseye on your back. Trying to be dominant is only going to get enemies. Now, let me go back to the examples of your alpha females who did things correctly here. The most powerful female figure is the mother. Let's talk about that for a few moments because I told you we're going to get into this. About what it is that gives women power. The most powerful female figure is the mother. But ask yourself a question. Which mother archetype gets the most out of the people around her? I didn't say the sons. I didn't say the daughters. I said the people. Which mother archetype gets the most out of the people around her? The one who seeks dominance or the one who seeks influence? Ask yourselves a question. The one who seeks dominance or the one who seeks influence? Which of these archetypes gets the most out of the people around them? Think about that for a few moments. The domineering, dominant ones, the ones who try to embody masculine characteristics, are those the ones that get that? If you be honest with yourself, you realize, that's not really the way that works. Not really the way that works. Who gets the most out of the people around her? The domineering mother who leads through dominance, or the influential mother who leads through inspiration? And I submit to you that the domineering mother is obeyed until she can be escaped. But the inspirational mother is obeyed to the grave. Everyone around her knows that she is more valuable than their own lives are, because she has inspired them. She hasn't tried to dominate them. She is influential because she doesn't try to dominate. She is influential because she's demonstrated that she can put your interests ahead of her own. She's influential because she hasn't established herself to get a target on her back, because she's not trying to dominate anyone. At least she's not trying to do it the way men do. She is trying to be influential, not dominating. Now, this is going to be a hard pill to swallow. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow because you actually have a generation now of a bunch of females who have been raised by deficient, foolish. If you go down the list of characteristics that I named, if you go down that list, you have a bunch of females who, let me go ahead and explain to you, ladies. A lot of you are about to hear yourselves described here. It's going to hurt your feelings a bit, but we got to be honest. And in the chat room, everybody, I think they're done messing with my stream here. Go ahead and hit my likes for me here. I don't want to fall behind. Let's let folks know that you're getting the truth about this. Let's be very, very clear. How many of you ladies here, first of all, you can't be an alpha because you spend your time comparing yourself to men? You call yourself an alpha, but then the first thing you do is compare yourself to men. Strike one. Number two, you don't have any men of power, wealth, influence, status, consequence. You don't have anybody desirable in balance competing for you. There is no competition. There's one little old sorry nigga over there somewhere who's willing to lay up, but there isn't a competition. Not among men who have anything of any substance. How many of you are a fool? How many of you have made foolish sexual decisions and continue to do so? Is one thing when that's in your rearview mirror. How many of you have made foolish sexual decisions, foolish personal decisions, foolish financial decisions, foolish social decisions? You're sitting under a bunch of debt. You got no good ass friends. Your job is always screwed up. You're carrying around 4-5 bastard kids here. You haven't elevated your intellect. How many of you are a fool? How many of you can take a look at your life and say, I've done some really dumb stuff that is still, it was so foolish, it's still in my way now? How many of you have committed mistakes that were so egregious, so large, so foolish that those mistakes are still hindering you right now? Right this second. You were put in the driver's seat. You were allowed to demonstrate your mastery of being an alpha on male terms. And if you dispute the characteristics that I'm saying here, by the way, if you keep saying yes to all these questions, that describes you, oh boy. Yes, college loans count. Yes, they do. If you didn't choose something that allows you to be able to get out from up under them, yeah, it damn sure does. Ladies, how many of you are admired? I didn't say dudes want to sleep with you. That's not admiration. How many of you are genuinely admired? I'll spare you that one. How many of you ladies are not the best version of yourselves? How many of you have been making peace with where you have fallen down the hierarchy, but you ain't really elevating in it? How many of you are sitting in that position? Simple question. How many of you talk too damn much? Oh boy. Truth be told, we kind of just eliminated like 92% of you right there. Can we just be honest? We just blew 92% of you out the water right there. 9 out of 10 got removed on just that point alone. Ladies, how many of you can't be told a damn thing? I mean, a fella can talk to you. A man can talk to you and tell you where you are screwing up, and you'll sit there and look him right in the face and be like, yep, I know this is a bad, dumb decision. This will set me back, but I can't help myself. I've got the ability to blow my life up, and I'm going to do that. You see, that's the difference between men and women. Remember what I said before about men's sacrifice. Remember what I said before about men will sit at the table with somebody who despises us or we despise them. But we are not going to leave if that is in our best interest. Females are willing to self-destruct, not based on strategy, not even based on principle. Let's be very, very clear about that. We're not even talking about sacrificing themselves based on principle. We're talking about just based on emotion. Well, I don't like that. I want you to understand something. Even when you define men, even when you talk about the traits that make a man an alpha, the words "I don't like that" don't enter our vocabulary. We don't define our relationships with other people based upon "we don't like that." Show me the male who does. That's a dude who was raised by a bunch of catty, ratty, bratty females, and he won't get anywhere either. Hate to kick a man while he's down, but PJ Washington, I mean, take a look at how he handled the situation after the fact. Don't even take a look at what was happening during the time. Take a look at how he handled the situation after the fact. After things went down with Brittany Renner, did he G up and handle it like an alpha male? Did he handle it like a man of consequence, like a man of power? Is that the way he handled it? No, let's go ahead and be honest here for a moment. Did he handle that situation like a man of power, wealth, influence, eminent substance, status, intellect, that he was powerful at all those levels? Did he do that? Or did he start falling to pieces? Did he go to Instagram and attempt to litigate his case there? Did he handle it with her? Did he handle it behind the scenes? Did he handle it with power? Or did he go to the world attempting to do what females do? You see, when females want to attack someone, they go after you publicly. They go after reputations. They're catty. That's what females do. How did he respond to adversity? He responded to it the same way the females do. And remember what I told you all. I told you PJ don't give a damn about seeing that kid. Remember I said that? Remember, I said that from the beginning, that the issue wasn't him, quote unquote, seeing the kid. The issue was that he was telling himself in his mind that this child is a handcuff on her. And that if I can just handcuff her, she ain't going nowhere. And she doesn't want to see me. Well, you got to see me because I need to see my son, daughter, whatever it is. I need to see the baby. She doesn't want to let me see the baby. Brittany immediately goes out there. Okay, he can see the baby anytime he wants to. All of a sudden, you notice he hasn't said anything else about that. Now she's been going coast to coast and she hasn't backed down on a single negative thing that she said or done about him. She didn't back down on a single thing. Didn't change anything except the only thing that changed was, well, he can see the kid if he wants to. But then again, that was never an issue. What happened was, once she took that away, he couldn't claim he couldn't see the kid anymore. So he goes back to talking about people who ain't real. He didn't want the child. He thought the child was going to be a guarantee that no matter how incompetent he was, that she would be trapped with him. Let me say that again. PJ is not an alpha. PJ is just a lucky lame. And these lucky lames are very quick to get females pregnant because they believe that a baby is going to compensate for his lack of competence and will trap her. And it doesn't work. A female is eventually going to get completely tired of your incompetence. And even if she's not qualified to get a competent man, that doesn't mean she wants to sit with an incompetent one either. Now, there's the real issue of it. She doesn't want to sit with an incompetent one. But ladies, how many of you do not accept the leadership, mentorship, tutelage, following of a competent man? You cannot be told anything. How many of you refuse to be quiet and can't be told anything? Well, guess what? Alpha females don't do a bunch of talking like that. When you talk about true power, when you talk about TV shows like Game of Thrones, Tywin Lannister wasn't a motor mouth. Tywin Lannister wasn't a motor mouth. Littlefinger was a bit of one. Tywin wasn't one. Everything, he didn't talk unless the words coming out of his mouth were straight business. And let's be very, very clear. Men identify and respect business. When a female is coming to us with business, we respect that. Because that's what makes you a leader among other females. While the other females are focusing on emotionalism, you're a female who's put together in a feminine way, but you're able to communicate about business. So as a man, we have no choice but to be able to identify that. We can recognize when a woman is built for business. We also recognize when you are clearly not. And when a woman goes on and on and on and on and on talking about irrelevant, superfluous, non-essential things, that's not what an alpha does. There is no power in discussing your latest TikTok, Instagram videos. There's power in making them maybe, but there isn't power in discussing what you saw. There isn't. And then lastly here, ladies, how many of you are seeking dominance and not influence? How many of you are still doing that and haven't figured out that there's only a certain type of male who's going to allow you to dominate him? How many of you haven't figured it out yet? No, let's be very, very clear. There is such a thing as an alpha female. There is. But you have to understand how that is defined. An alpha female is defined relative, first and foremost, relative to other females. That is what centers your definition. That's the origin point of your definition as an alpha female. You can be an alpha relative to other females. Men are alphas relative to the world. Women are alphas relative to other females. Because that's the only place you can be one. You can't be an alpha female. You can't be an alpha outside of that. If you attempted to do so, it would end badly, because the moment you start getting power over men, they will immediately become people that you do not respect. Fellas, your entire lives, have you ever been treated well by a female who had power over you? I want you to think about your girlfriends, your teachers, hell, maybe even your mama. I want you to think about that for a few moments. College professors, managers at your job. Were you ever treated well by a female who had power over you? Now, you might be able to find an exception, but as a regular thing, as a regular routine circumstance, to the men listening, have you ever been treated well by a female who had power over you? Let me give you an example. A female who, if you made the mistake of moving in with one, you got your place, you gave up where you live so you can move in with her. You're paying bills and you're doing this, that, and the other, but by virtue of her name being on the lease, has there had any of you fellas out there that ever ended well for you? That her name on the lease ended well? Can you explain to me when that's ever happened? I'll wait. We got time. I'll wait. You can go ahead and give me a few examples of that. To the fellas that it has ended well for, in the chat room, give me a thumbs up. For the fellas that it has ended badly for, in the chat room, give me a thumbs down. Those of you watching live or recorded, I want you to be honest. To the fellas out there, if I'm wrong about this, correct me on it. But throughout your life, have you had better experience? Have women treated in positions of power over you treated you better? Or did women in positions of power over you treat you worse? Thumbs up if you got treated better. Thumbs down if you got treated worse. So far, only one thumbs up, and it looks like he was just laying up. A second thumbs down. We're in a few dozen. I mean, a second thumbs up, but we're in a few dozen thumbs down now. So, needless to say, the general consensus is, it doesn't work. Now, are you honest with yourself about why it doesn't work? It doesn't work because it can't. It doesn't work because it can't. That's the problem. It doesn't work because it can't. These are terms that people play about, and what I'm telling you is it does exist, because let me be very, very clear about something. For the fellas out there, and I brought you all through this explanation tonight because I wanted to bring you this point. To the fellas out there who say that there's no such thing as an alpha female, let's be very, very clear. All females ain't equal. Let's just go ahead and stop that nonsense right now. All females aren't equal. They are not equal. Let's just stop that right now. They're not all equal. There's levels to this. There's a hierarchy to this. Every female is not equal. They're not all the same. They are not all the same. There are females who are on another level. There are females who are on a different level. They're not all the same. They're not interchangeable. Some women are better than others, and some women are much better than others. Let me say that again for maximum offense. Some women are better than others, and some women are way better than others. It is not a situation where they are equal, and it's not a situation where there's just some slight differences and some slight variations. No, it isn't. No. There are clear differences between them. There are clear differences. I want you to be aware of that. So if somebody sits up here and tries to tell you that they are all the same, or they're similar, or they're interchangeable, no, they're not. They're not. Some women are better than others. Some women are classier than others. Some women are a lot smarter, a lot more capable. They're a joy to talk to for an extended period of time. They are females who understand. They don't get offended at taking an interest in what you're doing. They are interested in knowing. They want to sit up here and hear what this man has to say, because she understands that as a man, if he has set himself up as the table, she wants to see if the table is stable. But a female also understands that she doesn't have game to offer a man. And by the way, on my next edition of the Black Book, I would like to deal with that, about the fact I told you all here before, and the winosphere will be taking this here in a moment. Females don't have game. Females don't have game because females don't need it. I said this years ago, and it's still true today. Females don't have game because females don't need it. They don't need to have game. Now, that doesn't mean that game is not essential. I'm saying for what they do, it doesn't require game. Game requires effort. Game requires work. Game requires investigation. Now, a female is very well served to get some game because a person who doesn't have game is inevitably going to be a victim of somebody who does have it. Oh, hell, did I just say something else here that Rolo and the rest of them didn't know, and they'll all be writing and taken down and trying to reword next week? Ladies, it serves you well to get some game because a female who doesn't have game, a person who doesn't have game, is inevitably going to find themselves the victim of someone who does. If you're a person who lacks game, who lacks the ability to navigate with it, you're inevitably going to find yourself the victim of someone who does have it. So it doesn't serve you to walk around naive and silly in a world where people got game. You need to have a certain measure of that for yourself so that you're not just walking around being a victim. But females, for the most part, they don't have to have game. They can have femininity. They can have sexiness, and then they make choices. But men are the ones who have game. Men are the ones who have to overcome things. Men are the ones who have to figure things out. Women don't have to figure anything out. All she's got to figure out is, oh, well, he wants it. That's what they have to figure out. The men are the ones who actually have to go into the details and investigate the different avenues and the nuts and bolts. We're the ones who have to do that. The females don't. The females don't. And a smart female understands that that's something that she lacks. So what she starts looking for is a man who has game. Now, unfortunately, if you're an insecure female, the first thing that you will do is go grab a male who has no game whatsoever. He's weaker than you. He is summarily, repeatedly incompetent. He is unsuccessful. He has found himself over a barrel many a time. He has nothing to contribute to your situation except his presence. And while this will psychologically and emotionally placate weak, wayward, imbalanced, unstrategic, irresponsible females, alpha females do not keep weak males around them. They understand that that's the biggest mistake that a woman could ever make. They understand that that's the biggest mistake that a woman could ever make because a woman knows she can't afford to be a fool. And the most important decision that you'll ever make is the quality of man that you have around you. So that's definitely important. However, you might see things a little bit differently here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the telephone lines. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the program that laid the foundation upon which all of these red pill, MGTOW, high value posers, alpha male frauds, high value frauds, red pill retreads, and all the other fools out there are going to be ripping off and stealing everything next week. Hell, some of them might do it tonight. This is the place they get it from. So go ahead and join us. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines here. I want to open it up to the ladies. I want to open it up to the fellas as well. On my program, we don't pimp the dudes. On my program, men are respected here. We don't need other men to speak for us. By the way, on my program, men are respected. We don't need another nigga to speak for me because he can't speak for me. But to the women listening, if you believe that you can be a female alpha outside of what I said, if you believe that a female can be an alpha in the same, comparable to a man, if you believe that, I want you to go ahead and give us a call. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Go ahead and give us a call. I want to hear what you have to say. You can go ahead and give us a call about that. The phone lines are going to fill up here relatively quickly here, so you have been forewarned. You always got folks who want to call in a day late and a dollar short, so I would recommend that you call in first and early to make sure that you are actually able to speak. Or you can join the Patreon instead. That'll work for you as well. Let's go ahead and get a few phone calls in. Let me get caller from area code 214. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. Go lightly.
Okay, Golightly, take your phone off a speaker. Good grief. Talk about the antithesis of an alpha female. We're not even getting the phone call started right. She's sitting there fighting with wireless headphones. What she's doing. She doesn't know which end to start with. That's what's, for those of you who are wondering what's going on, that's what's happening.
I'm right here, Jason. I took off the headphones.
All right, Golightly, what's on your mind?
I'm sorry.
Okay, Golightly, I hear myself echoing, which means you have speakers on or something. I'm going to give you a moment to get, and I hear that squeal back there, so you got a speaker playing. Okay, let's put you back on hold here until you get your life together, because this is unconscionable. Caller from area code 630, you're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Jason. This is Nick from Chicago by way of Houston.
Nick from Chicago, what's on your mind?
Yeah, this is a timely subject. Just this past weekend, I was trying to, bang my head against the wall and try to give somebody some information. They must have thought I was trying to talk something else. They were trying to go straight for sex or something. I'm like, I don't touch crazy. I don't put myself in crazy. I've dealt with it before, and it's this person. I tried to at least put some knowledge in her head. I gave her your channel. What she wound up doing was trying to say, hey, this is all you. My mom is not the problem. My grandmother's not the problem. And then she said she wasn't black, immigrant, Puerto Rican type of stuff. It was crazy. And she just kept going, trying to talk. I just kept cutting her off. But everything that you described here, plain and simple, any alpha female, they're down the line of what you said. I can think of several women in my life. And then anybody complete opposite, especially the talking part, they are all in tatters. All of them. Every single one of them.
Well, you know, there's a penalty to pay if you're a female who can't be spoken to. Think about that for a few moments. There's a penalty to be paid. As men, you know, the world doesn't treat us so lightly. As a female, man, we'll let you age straight out the game. It is a cruel system in which how it deals with females who are hard-headed and can't be told anything. And what they will tell themselves is, as long as I can get sex, then I'm okay. I'm still viable. And that's a incredible delusion. It's an incredible illusion and delusion to be walking around with. Because early in their lives, sex is tied to resources and commitment. As they get older, it becomes decoupled from resources and commitment, but you don't get a notification when that happens. You don't get any notification when you have found yourself decoupled from it. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me go lightly here. We're going to try you one more time to see if you are finally ready. You got something squealing back there. What do you got? What are you doing?
Jason, everything you said is correct.
Okay, I know everything I said is correct. Sounds like you got 4 or 5 smoke alarms back there squealing instead of 1.
Seriously, yes, Jason. I'm about to buy my mother another house. Yeah,
okay, you need to buy yourself a 9-volt battery first. Before you get to mom, let's get you a 9-volt battery. Let's get you straightened out, and then we can go see about mom.
Well, Jason, I tried. Alpha female, there's no man. What type of alpha female or not, the fire alarm is hard to change.
And then you wanted me there. And then you wondered why I didn't come to your house. Then you're wondering why I didn't. And you wanted to drag me out there, and you're going to have me sitting up here doing yard work and everything else.
Well, Jason, who's going to do it? It's hard.
Okay.
Alpha female, nothing. Life still has to be done, and it's difficult. And I've been here for a year, and I can't fix this. Oh my goodness, this adult alpha. It's hard. It's difficult. And on top of something else, if I may share with you, in a company I worked for, all women, female management. It was so poorly run. They closed the office. They closed everything in Dallas and moved to California. They would rather do business in California that in Texas and have women run it because they ran it to the ground. Nobody speaks about the lack of leadership when it comes to women in the workplace. That was the real reason I wanted to call, just to further bolster and confirm what you're saying today.
Well, what do you see as the solution?
Jason, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll figure something out after I figure out this fire alarm situation in this house. But it's very difficult right now.
Go lively.
Jason. Yes, Jason.
Seriously?
What? What did I say
Okay.
that upset you?
Go lively.
What?
I'm going to give you a bit of advice, and I hope that the other females listening right now will take heed of this as well. Ladies, instead of you all trying to control the rest of the world, you all need to start with yourselves. And if I don't see a man in the equation, that's a problem.
Well, Jason, I'm working on that.
Baby, you've been working on that for half a decade. You've been working on that for half a decade that I'm aware of.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, could you imagine? Okay, is there any part of your career that you've been working on for half a decade and haven't made any progress at?
Is there a part of my career that I have not made progress at?
Yeah, is there a part of your career that you've been working on for over 5 years and have made no progress whatsoever?
Not one bit, Jason.
Okay.
The money this year is going to be incredible.
There's my point. When y'all want a job or a degree, it don't take y'all no 5 damn years to at least start making progress in that direction. But when it comes to men, y'all will sit here until there's reruns of what's happening and no results. And I want people to think about that for a few moments. I just want you all to think that over for a few moments. Right now, that is literally the situation we're in. We're in a situation where they can go for years, decades, spinning their wheels, screwing up habitually, time and time again. You can sit up here and go through your careers and everything else. You're dedicated to that, which is ultimately never going to help you. Not the kind of help you need. And just think about that for a few moments. So what I'm saying is you all can get done what you actually would want to get done. If you actually prioritized it and that's what you actually wanted to do, that would have already gotten handled. You've already demonstrated that. You know what the real issue is? There hasn't been a white man to come tell y'all to do it yet. If there were, they'd be knocking themselves over. But maybe we can hire Kim K.
But Jason, I don't want to maneuver through life using my body like that, as she does. Nothing against her. Her mother is a very savvy businesswoman, but they use their body and men. Not every woman wants. How is
who are you talking about? Who are you talking about?
You said Kim K. You just said Kim K. I was referring to her.
Well,
about seeking her advice.
What I will say is she had a husband for a little while. I will say that, and she didn't let making money get in the way of that. So what I'm saying is, if she could figure, she could figure it out
for money.
Okay, if she could figure it out, what about you?
That's what I'm doing, Jason. That's what I'm doing.
5 years. There's my point is, could you imagine where your career would be if it took you half a decade or a decade to figure something out? Could you imagine where your career would be?
I wouldn't have a career. I would be doing the same thing I was doing when I was in my early 20s.
Right. You'd be working the drive-through at Five Guys. And that's my point, is if it took you that long for your career, you'd never go anywhere. So when that happens, all of a sudden they're clueless. But when it comes to men, they're clueless. When it comes to their careers, they can figure it out. So what does that really tell you? Is this a matter of not being able to figure it out, or is this a matter of I've got different priorities? Why do you think it hadn't kicked off for you, Golightly?
Well, it did, but kind of what you mentioned, it's that trying to have it all, like they used to say in the 80s. Why smother career? It doesn't exist. Like it's near impossible, if not impossible.
Are you ready?
You would have to. Am I ready?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Why do you think you're ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Why do you think you're ready?
I believe I'm ready because first, I'm more mentally in a place to be settled. Secondly, I don't want to approach a relationship as I would approach working or business. It's not transactional, of course. Business, career is transactional. A relationship is not.
Nonsense.
And there's just, I don't want to view a relationship as transactional.
Everything. Okay, that was something I had to correct Rollo Tomasi on, and he finally conceded I was right about that. Everything in life is a transaction. What the hell are you talking about? Everything in life is, if you want something, somebody else will give it to you for something else. But this idea that people are just going to give it to you because you want it, that's nonsense.
Well, what I don't want to approach, because I want to settle, of course, get married, but I know that I'm going to have to make changes, and I'm working on that.
Okay, tell me the top 3 changes you need to make.
Of course, my willingness to compromise, my willingness, especially for a husband, it would be, from my perspective, it would have to be total submittal, be submissive, which that's just how I was raised. And I told you where I went to school in Dallas. That's how we were taught. And then, of course, my willingness to compromise on the financial standpoint. Would I be willing to compromise? I mean, Jason, I told you how much I make yearly.
As if that matters.
Exactly, as if it matters. But am I willing to?
You know what you haven't, Golightly, do you know what you haven't told me? You have told me your career.
What have I not told you?
You have told me your career. You've told me your education. You've told me your income. Mm-hmm. You told me about your house. Mm-hmm. You know what you haven't told me? You haven't told me your weight and your dress size. You haven't told me that.
Oh, Jason, I'm fit. I'm back at 130 now.
Okay.
I'm at 130, solid size 2, 130. It's in a good size too. It's a good size too.
Golightly, size 130 size 2s don't have them problems.
Jason, the problem is with me finding a man. That's not the issue. I get quite a bit of attention. That's not the problem. Jason, I have to be careful. Like, I just can't. I have a lot to lose.
Baby, you ain't got, ma'am, the only thing you losing right now is time on the calendar. What are you talking about?
That is very true. And
by the way, I get a lot of male attention. Yes, I hear that a lot, usually coming from you. I haven't heard anybody else say that. So, I've still been waiting to evaluate that. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So I'm almost certain, because here's my problem. My problem is size 2 at 130 don't have a smoke alarm chirping like that. She got dudes there's going to be, especially in the Dallas area, you got too many options.
Jason, I've had 2 of my neighbors and a fireman try to come help me with this issue. I have tried. Yes, people have come, my neighbors, male neighbors, and they offered without me even asking, because like, you can't have something like this, and they tried.
Okay.
I'll try, Jason.
Galite?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yes,
Galite.
Jason.
Well,
Yes, Jason.
I hear you.
Excuse me.
I hear you, but I got a feeling, because these sound like size 16 problems, is what they sound like to me.
No,
It sound like size 16 problems.
not
I'm going to be totally
Jason,
honest with
I'm
you.
not a size 16.
Okay. Well, until you can prove it, you are guilty until proven innocent.
Okay. All right.
But
Jason,
Galitely keep.
I'm a size 26.
Okay. Well,
Jason.
that explains the
Fine.
smoke alarm
Like,
and other issues. That
No,
explains
I'm
all
not.
of that.
Jason, I'm being facetious.
I'm
being
not.
facetious.
All right,
I'm being
well.
facetious. I'm not a size. My point is, I've tried. I'm putting in effort. I see very large women settled, very settled. Even where I live, right here.
Galitely, put in some effort to send me a picture. Okay, do that, and then we'll determine if these are real problems or if they're self-inflicted.
Jason, even like, okay,
All right.
even if I was fat,
Okay.
like, how is that? What?
Now I want y'all to understand something. This holds true for men and for
women. Is it that I
women.
can't find someone because I'm too big?
This holds
Like,
true for men
like-
and for women. When a man is told what the price of an item is, and then the very next thing he does is he starts talking, then what he's saying is, I don't have the money. Now, when a man's got the money and you say what the price of something is, he goes straight to the business. He gets to the point. Well, it works the same way with females. If a female actually has the goods, she goes straight to the goods. She doesn't start talking. So if you ask about the goods and she immediately goes off into a spiel about something else and she's running her mouth, that's usually your first indication that it's not there. And by the way, Galitely, I'm not bombing on you. I'm saying this as a public service announcement for everybody else. I want them all to be aware that when men hear these things and see these things, just understand we know what we're hearing. We know what we're hearing. But anytime,
I guess
after all these years, just understand, eventually it starts to ring hollow after all these years for you to say that and to keep saying you have no results. It's like, well, okay, it starts to take on a specific pattern. There's a specific type of female who would do that. But
Jason, I've had guys.
Galitely.
I've gone out, especially since
Galitely.
Calmed down. The
Okay,
pandemic.
Galitely.
I was with a guy.
Excuse me? Is this
dinner.
heifer sitting up here talking over me? Are you serious?
No, I'm not, Jason.
Yeah, it actually sounds like you are. Yeah, it really, really does sound like you are. And then she wonders why she's alone for the holidays habitually.
I'm not alone for the holidays, Jason.
Heifer, you alone? You alone right now?
I haven't settled.
You're alone right now.
Okay. I'm not married, so I'm not alone. So
Ma'am, okay, let's try this a different way.
So
you on the damn phone with me. You're not laid up with nobody else. If he were so great and so special, you'd be there. You wouldn't be here. And he would have changed that damn smoke alarm by now. So if you had it popping like that, you'd be under somebody. You wouldn't be, or you'd be on him. You wouldn't be on my phone. That's the way that works, ma'am. It's winter in Dallas, Texas, just like anywhere else. So let's just be very, very clear. You can't bluff your way through this. You and Juliet need to get together with a, middle-aged girls book club with the rest of the Oprah Winfreyites and whatnot. Then you'll be a little bit more comfortable. But let's not try to bluff our way through that. Let's not do that. That's not going to work.
Well, if it's any reconciliation, I did join the Buckhead Club. I did join that organization, a private club, for the sole purpose of finding a partner. I would like someone. I'm putting in effort, Jason.
Okay. Well,
I do want to be. I just want to be more careful. That's all I'm saying.
How old are you now?
Now from 37, Jason. 37.
Okay. Hang in there, kid.
Oh my God.
Thank you for giving us a call. 37. 37. Think that over for a few minutes. 37. 37. I want to thank everybody who's contributed to support tonight's program here, by the way, on PayPal or Cash App. Thank you very much for that. My man, Pookie Jenkins, I see you in the house, bro. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. And yeah, 37. Alpha female, 37. This is what the alpha females have to show for it. Ladies, this is what being hard-headed has to show for it. I was going to tell her before she knows every damn thing. If you don't ally with a man, the game is over. The game's over. If you don't ally with a man, the game is over. It's over. Because you don't have enough of anything to help you with. You don't have enough of anything to help you with. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Let me get caller from area code 267. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Phil. I'm in Chicago.
Phil in Chicago, what's on your mind?
How you doing, Jason? Well, I was one of those guys that you were referring to. I got married when I was 27. She was 34. She didn't look 34 though. She looked a lot younger. She kept up with herself. She looked good. However, I was unfortunately living in my mama's basement, and we got married, and I wasn't treated very well. However, I did turn it around. As far as my income is concerned, I became the breadwinner. Started making like 70, 80 a year, and she stopped working because she was working at the post office, and she ended up leaving the job, and she stopped working. So I was taking care of the bills, and it lightened up a little bit, but ultimately, she was very combative, very aggressive, physically abusive to a certain extent, very argumentative. It was very difficult. I ended up moved out, and I couldn't be more happier. But I was one of those individuals who was incompetent, and I'm not that way now. I'm doing a lot better now.
Well, what is that? What does that teach us, though? Because that was the lesson I wanted to talk about here, and I talked about this earlier tonight. You see, one of these days, I'm going to have to do a program here where we analyze who's winning, because there has been so much focus put on who females sexually respond to, and not nearly enough put on who they acquiesce to. Let me just say who they obey. There hasn't been nearly as much focus put on that. So when you sit up here and talk about the guys at the hot phone cannon party, or Hot Guy at the Foam Cannon Party, Rolo, and other folk talking about that. And I think a bit too much focus is put on that. Because if that guy, if Mr. Foam Cannon Party, Mr. Swag, whatever, if he doesn't eventually develop competence, then it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad. Remember, a female can only remain foolish for so long. She can only remain foolish for so long. When her survival and well-being is protected, she can afford to remain foolish. When there's nobody to protect her survival, then all of a sudden they get real pragmatic. All of a sudden they put a very high premium on competence and performance. All of a sudden. We've created an environment that protects women from their incompetence, from their foolishness, from their impetuousness, from their recklessness. We create a society that indulges it. And they continue down that road until the bill comes due. Once the bill comes due, oh hell. Now all of a sudden they're the most competent, pragmatic, practical, results-oriented, accountable individual you can find. And we used to insist on them getting that early. So if you are a male who is incompetent, you're not performing, obviously there were some things that got you and her together in the first place. But eventually the value of that for her wore thin. And the problem with females, and this is where guys today, if you really want to know what puts guys on the red pill, if everybody wants to really know why it is that so many guys gravitate to this red pill stuff, let me explain to you why. Because after 2 generations of sissified, weak males raised by gutter, unqualified females, these boys have grown into men who cannot perform. They cannot handle the burden of performance. They don't exhibit excellence at anything of any value. And as a result, listen to these words I'm about to tell you all. Remember these 3 words, because I said this years ago. And the red pill community is going to pick it up and run with it. Females punish incompetence. Females punish lack of performance. They don't just sit there and it's like, oh, well, meh. Females punish that. Females punish that.
Yes, sir.
Understand that. Females
Also,
punish that.
Jason, I was unfortunately, you know about the Haitian community, and a lot of Haitians, unfortunately, the mothers are kind of the quote unquote alphas in the relationship, and the fathers don't really do anything. It's not often you see the father as the leader. More often than not, it's the mothers who are the overbearing ones in this case. And I obviously grew up in that type of environment. But now that I'm 30 years of age, I am working on my purpose, working 60, 70 hours a week, doing the best that I can to improve, get better, perform.
Well, it sounds like
I wish I had known that.
It sounds like you're still working on confidence, and I'm a big fan of that as well. Competence and confidence go hand in hand. And show me the way that the guy is speaking. If he's hesitant, if he's really measuring his words a lot and whatnot. Oh, I'm nervous. Yeah, confidence and competence go hand in hand. So I'm sure you're in a building phase right now, and that's important. I want you to get to a point where you develop confidence, because understand, if you're talking to me like this, you're talking to everybody else. Notice I didn't say females. I said everybody else like that as well. And a key component of getting yourself to your maximum level of performance is being able to lead. There's value in being a good follower. I was always an excellent follower, but following is supposed to prepare you for leadership. And if the confidence is not there, you will not be an effective leader. So that's the next thing I see. And this, like I say, especially if it's a situation, if you haven't had a father figure in your life or a father in your life to be able to consult these things with, that's the kind of thing that can really trip you up. That's the kind of thing that can really trip you up. But I'm glad to hear that things are going better for you here. So definitely keep at it. And there's a lot to learn in that regard. But what you found out here is that females punish incompetence. They don't play about it. They don't mess around about it. They punish incompetence. If you are not competent, if you are not capable, if they see weakness, they are less. And don't get me wrong, there are females who will stand by you in this, that, and the other, but she got to be built like that when you meet her. You can't sit up here and just grab any old. It's kind of like what females do. Females will just throw their legs around any old dude because he sexually arouses her. And then, well, because we're sexually compatible, then this guy will eventually also meet my other needs that have been unspoken, if that happens. Or all I got to do is tweak it a little bit because we got the major part is we're sexually compatible, so we'll just go from there. And that's not the way that works. That is not the way that works. You know, what happens is a situation where you can't just grab any female and expect that she's going to be willing to, you know, willing to experience your building phase. If she's built like that already, that's when you can get. If she's not, just understand, if things get rough, you're done. If things get rough, you're done because she's not built like that. She's not built to wait for you to gain those characteristics. Whatever she was getting, she's like, okay, that's okay. And if something better comes along, there she goes. Because that was the other thing we didn't ask about here. Did she start talking to somebody else during that time?
No, she didn't. She was, one of the things that drew me to her was her loyalty. She was not the type of person that would go out and sleep with. To my knowledge, Jason, to my knowledge, because sometimes you never know, but to my knowledge, no, she wasn't doing that. But she did file a divorce, of course, and it didn't work out. I ended up leaving. What she did was she filed a divorce, right? But she didn't want me to move out.
Oh, really?
She kind of kept kind of pushing it back until one day I just got my stuff and I just said, you know what? First of all, credit to you. I started listening to you, obviously.
How much did she weigh?
I can't anymore. So, Jason, what's that all about? Like, why was I doing something wrong there?
Okay. Well,
or was it?
Well, here's the reason why I do what I do here on The Business. And yes, YouTube is messing with my program super heavy tonight. My internet connection is not the problem. I've been over here surfing websites over here while that's been going on. So just be aware that's going okay here. So, I understand if you're not some effete metrosexual selling incense, YouTube doesn't want to hear about this stuff because I'm not talking about dating. I don't give a damn about dating. I talk about power dynamics. I talk about that. So like I say, understand, no, I mean, they got a hierarchy up there. They don't like that. There's a certain thing. They like a dumbed down population that doesn't discuss anything serious. They want to hear a bunch of people just talking in circles and going nowhere because that helps them. So, but be that as it may, about what you were talking about here. First of all, the first thing I would say is I discuss power dynamics. I don't discuss dating. So I bristle at the idea that, and by the way, how much did she weigh?
I couldn't tell you her exact weight, Jason, but she looked just like Gina from Martin, the show Martin. Remember?
All right,
Gina?
nigga. Okay, well, okay, that doesn't tell us anything. That doesn't tell us anything.
Okay.
Because just because you thought she was doesn't mean she was. That might have been what usually happens is dudes, they ain't really had a lot of experience with females, so she was the best you'd ever had. But that might be a different matter. what I'll do, I'll go ahead and I'll send you a text message. You can go ahead and send me a response on that, and we'll take a look and see what that is. Because when dudes start talking about they don't know how much they chick weighed, it's like, okay, you know this isn't going to work. Now you know that's not going to work.
I'm not going to do you.
Now he knows that's not going to fly. He knows it.
I'm not going to do you like a lot of these chicks.
Okay.
Stalling, taking a whole bunch of time, faking it.
He's still talking, though.
It to you, right?
But he's still talking.
No.
Okay.
Don't do that.
In any case,
I'm
a big proponent. I don't sit around asking, well, what could I have done different or this, that, and the other to keep about as far as someone's desire is concerned, because in a lot of cases as a man, I've seen some men who didn't do anything, quote unquote, wrong. They were the same person they were when they met her. But if you're dealing with females who cannot be satisfied, and unfortunately a lot of females by female nature cannot be satisfied, you can't sit up and make your job to satisfy her. You have to make your job to pursue your purpose, not to quote unquote satisfy her. So that's the first mistake that males should not make. You shouldn't make your life about satisfying her. You should make your life about being resourceful. You should make your life about being competent. You should make your life about being a producer. You should not make your life about acquiescing. You shouldn't make your life about, oh, well, are they okay with XYZ? You shouldn't make your life about that. That's not what you want to do. That will be a dog chasing their own tail. You don't want that. You don't want that. So don't focus on that. Because that'll drive you crazy. That'll drive you out of your mind. Now, in your case, you might not have been performing. I don't really tell guys to worry about what women think. I think your energies would be much better spent in one direction. And that is being a person who folks have something to lose in your absence. To me, if you really want to measure if you are an alpha male, ask yourself one question. Did these people lose anything because I'm not here? Take a look at when you leave the room, when you leave the chat, when you leave the company party, whatever the case may be, when you leave, if that fundamentally changes the way things go, if that fundamentally changes the way that things happen, if that fundamentally takes things out of the room, that's important. That's important. That matters. That's not a minor thing. And that's why I was saying here, for a lot of folk, it doesn't bother them if you were there or not. Okay. Taking a look at your pictures just finally came through here. And this must have been a while ago. Okay, she looks like a good size 2'4". She looks like a good size 2'4". So she's on the slender side, but that's fine. She looks like a good size 2'4". But here was the problem. And I wanted to say this when they stopped screwing around with my signal here. She was 6 years older than you. That sets off every alarm bell known to man. Let's be very, very clear. How old were you two when you met?
I was 20. This was beginning of 2018. I was 27, and I believe she was 34 or 33.
Okay. So that right there, you were 27, she's 30. Well, you say she was 6 years older than you, so that'd be around 33. So you were 27, she was 33. I'm sure you thought she was killing the game. Here's the problem. Did she have any kids?
No kids.
She ever been pregnant?
She Never been pregnant.
Okay, well, first of all, she's light. First of all, she's light skinned, so that means she's crazy. That's the first thing. So first of all, she's light skinned, so that means
she is.
First of all, she's light skinned. That means she's crazy. Stop sending me pictures, sir.
100%.
Okay, sir, stop sending me pictures.
No,
I'm not.
No, I had sent them before.
Okay, I'm not a groupie. Okay,
I'm sorry.
One or two would have been all right. I don't need the. Obviously, you have some unresolved feelings here. Okay, I'm taking a look at her midsection. She doesn't show the signs that she has been pregnant and had distension. So I'm going to assume that she hasn't. So what we're dealing with here is a typical crazy light-skinned chick. And to all my light-skinned females, y'all know the rules. Y'all are all crazy, but you all already know this. I ain't holding it against y'all, but y'all know y'all are crazy. With that being the case, they're also used to being acquiesced to. Now, here's the problem. She was older than you. There are two females that a young male needs to watch out for. Number one, single moms. Number two, older females. Be careful when you're dealing with females who have more life experience than you. They're meeting you at a time when you are still learning and developing, but she's got considerably more life experience. She's more savvy. You have to be careful about that. Because a female who is calculating is meeting you under calculating circumstances. That means she wants something. And you are not yet developed enough, seasoned enough, old enough, mature enough to be able to calculate and anticipate what that is. Let me tell you something. This is why I described this before about females who are single mothers or females who are older. You got to understand, when she was 20 years old, she was messing with niggas who were 27 and 30 years old. So she's used to being the young, naive chick who got screwed over. And the only thing that circulates through a female's mind after she's been messed over is get even. That is the only thought that circulates through their heads. When they've been messed over, when they feel they've been taken advantage of, it isn't that guy was bad. It is all these men ain't no good. And then it becomes about, quote unquote, getting even. So just understand that before you go any further. When they feel like that's occurred, they're going to be looking for somebody to pay the price. That's where daddy issues come from and whatnot. She's going to try to punish all these other men for what her father didn't do. So be aware when you're dealing with a female who's a single mom, she sat up here playing stupid games with her draws and wound up, the dice came up snake eyes. So any man she meets after that, she's trying to get over. So it doesn't really matter what the guy's age is at that point, particularly if he's younger than she is. She's been through some things you haven't been through. She's a lot more savvy. She's dealt with some mature, manipulative experiences that you just ain't dealt with. So she's operating on a level of skullduggery that you haven't even fathomed. And you're going into this with good faith, and she's walking in the door with her pistol trained on you. Now, you were with a female who was older than you, but at a critical point, she was over the age of 30. You were still in your late 20s. That tells me she was looking for something. That was a calculated move. In her 30s, she's supposed to be looking for a dude in his 40s. She goes for a fella in his 20s. That means that the men in her age group made it very clear to her, we see what's wrong with you. And we're not touching you. So she was trying to get resources out of a couple of somebodies and couldn't get it. So she did the resort that a lot of these females do. They're looking for an easy prey. Well, let me go find the fellow who was younger and see if I can snatch him up and see if I can get him to perform. Problem, you all haven't learned how to perform yet. Now, therein comes the real problem. You haven't learned how to perform yet. And because you haven't learned how to perform, it becomes very difficult for you. Which is why I created the peak value chart. You're not going to actually start performing at a high level till you get in your mid 30s. She got you in your late 20s. You don't know how to perform. You don't know what it means. It's rare to find a fella in his 20s who's really got his arms around and a good grip around what it means to perform. It's rare to meet that. So she's expecting 40-year-old performance from a 27-year-old. which is why the clock on you was ticking so fast. So she met you, you wasn't on drugs, you didn't have any kids, no criminal record. She was like, okay, now if I can throw this light-skinned body on him long enough, he will start performing. Remember, I said that earlier. That's the assumption that females make, is that if I'm physically attracted to him, then sex will also motivate him to perform in the other areas I need. She just takes that as an unspoken given. The same way that men tend to take as an unspoken given, if she's cute, then she must be cute at everything she does. Then you find out she's got some ugly ways about her that the cuteness actually enabled. So with that being the case, just understand. So you may have done everything quote unquote correctly, and that's not going to change it. She's an older female. She's got expectations that you were in no way thinking about at 27. You will still come out that high school phase. Look, as long as the sex between us is good, we can work on everything else. And that's not the way she was thinking. So that's why I know when you tell me the relationship didn't last very long, yeah, I can imagine. She needed performance. She ain't getting any younger. Dudes can see she cutthroat and skullduggerous. She went looking for a fellow who was unassuming. Now, that was the bad news. Now, you said that she filed for divorce?
Yes, sir.
Okay. She did you a favor.
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Yes, she did.
How did she
sure
do?
Did.
How did she do you a favor? Tell me how.
By getting me out of that situation. I don't have to deal with it. I can restart, and I can focus on getting better, becoming a high performance man, so that I can have a plethora
this kind of silliness that you're saying right now. This is the reason why you all need a man around to explain these things to you. She did you a favor because imagine if she had waited just a few years more. If she waited a few years more and you started performing, she'd be over 40, right when you're starting to hit your stride. She divorces you then, now she can take something. If you're sitting there living on your mama's couch, you ain't got nothing to take in a divorce. Are you paying alimony?
Oh, hell no.
Okay,
nope,
there's my point. So y'all got to understand, this is how immature and inexperienced he is. He didn't even think about that. She did you a favor by tipping her hand and showing that she's out to get what she can get, and by leaving before you actually had something that could be attached. At this point, you actually were able to make a clean break. You ain't thinking about it because nobody sat you down and explained this to you. By the way, this is a dumb move to not know that. She could have very easily had you over a barrel if she waited a little bit longer before you started producing. But by her not being patient enough, a lot of females out there who screw up themselves being impatient, even if you try to be, scandalous, you could have at least been patient. She wasn't willing to be patient. And now you can get your act together and that's it. She's missed out on everything. She did you a favor by not sticking around and being an impediment when that occurred. Because very, very clearly, she's got superficial and self-serving reasons for doing what she does. You will now not be subject to those. But if she had not done this the way she did, if she had waited a little while longer, if she had had a bit more patience, this would have gone a different direction for you. And you'd be feeling totally different about this. You're feeling better about this because it didn't go that way. So take that as a very good thing. It didn't go that way. I mean, she sticks around a little bit longer and you're screwed. Just a little bit more. So, brother, she did you a favor by exiting when she did the way she did. She did you a favor. You don't know how much power you almost handed over to her.
How many more years does it take to get the alimony? Is it 5 years?
Well, technically speaking, there isn't a number. So, contrary to popular belief, there actually isn't a number. There's just a general set of practices, depending on what state you're in. But technically speaking, there actually isn't a number. They go to court to see about those things. But to be totally honest with you, there's not a fixed number. Your job is to make sure you're not, sitting there vulnerable to it.
Well, I'm glad I was able to get out of that situation, and now I'm doing better. I am focusing on everything you're telling the young men to do. I'm doing exactly that, and thank goodness I have a chance. By the way, you didn't really mention about Nicki Minaj there.
I didn't mention
I was going to ask you about that.
I didn't mention what about her?
Well, she would be considered one of those that she would be considered. She's not an alpha female, obviously, because she had to marry somebody who from the street, basically. Nobody really wanted her around her. That's on her level. Well, what about Rihanna too?
Okay, well, understand something. The standard is not about a beauty contest nor a popularity contest. The standard is about power. And it's going to be determined by your place in the hierarchy with women. And it's going to be determined by your influence, not dominance, but influence with men. So if you all want to know what the formula is, it's your place in the hierarchy with women and your influence with men. And that's going to determine that. And if you are lacking in those areas, you can't be an alpha. You cannot be an alpha female. And in Rihanna's case, somebody would have to show me where that is, because I don't see where that is. She doesn't have any influence with men. As evidenced by her life, she doesn't have any influence with men.
Well, that's too bad for them in that sense, but well,
thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Like I say, brother, dodged the bullet on that one. Could have been a hell of a lot worse for him. Let me get caller from country code here, 528. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Carlo calling from Mexico.
Okay, try that again.
This is Carlo calling from Mexico.
Okay, Carlo from Mexico. What's on your mind?
I just want to say I agree with everything you're saying, man. Especially about the alpha female. We had a situation at the hospital that I'm at where these two women want to be the bosses of the service, but it just wouldn't work out. So even though they're very competent, we put a less competent person in that position just because he's a man. He knows how to delegate way better than a woman. And with them being in that position, they would never get anything done.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah, I think something's messed up with the audio. Try that again.
No, I was just explaining how in the hospital we have a situation where these two females want to be the bosses of the service, but because they're two females and females don't get along, we decided to put a man who may be a little less competent, but he's a way better delegator. And with them in that position, nothing would get done.
Okay, well, definitely, like I say, if you really want to see things go sideways quickly, then just have the females try to hash it out among themselves about who should lead. Because where things break down is when you start coming to questions of leadership. That's when things break down for you. That's really where it falls apart. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get called from area code 734. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Howard from Detroit.
Okay. Try that again. What's your name?
Howard from Detroit.
Howard from Detroit. What's on your mind?
Quick question. What makes Oprah an alpha female?
Okay, well, the first thing is that the first metric of power, the first characteristic of being an alpha is power. So when you say the word alpha, what you're saying is power. Where the mistake gets made is any individual or person who tries to make a direct correlation between the ways in which males embody it and the ways in which females embody it. But Oprah Winfrey was absolutely an alpha female, and still in many ways is, because when you take a look at the characteristics that make a female an alpha, she was an alpha relative to other women. Remember, she started on a TV station in Chicago, so she was a standout among other women even then, not necessarily as a beauty queen, but when you put her next to them, she stood out. So relative to other women, she was an alpha. The men of power and wealth and influence were competing for her, at least as an employee, they were competing for her, because as a romantic interest, that wasn't really what you want. She wasn't a fool. You don't get to be where she is by being dumb. So that doesn't happen.
That's true.
She's certainly admired by other women. Now, I didn't say that I didn't say it was the correct thing for them to be doing. We are taking a cold, objective, analytical look at this, and when you take a look at it analytically, that's what you end up with. Certainly she was not Tarana Burke, especially when the Crayola people got done with her. She listened way more than she talked. She made a living by listening to people. So when you take a look at these are cues that most females today screw up on. And of course, she didn't try to dominate anything. She tried to influence people, which is why the listening aspect was so critical. So when it comes to being a female, when it comes to executing alpha as a female, she's one of the few. She's still unmatched. So in the chat room, to the dummy Pan-African, this stupidity talking, it doesn't, I already covered that. It doesn't matter what you personally think. You're lacking in manhood here. You're supposed to be able to take a look at people with a cold, analytical look and not get distracted. When you start making little irrelevant comments, that's your first clue. You're being easily distracted. We're supposed to be able to take a look at her with a cold, analytical view and to see what works. It doesn't matter whether it served our best interests. Knowing how she did it serves our best interests. It's not about whether or not we like her. That's a feminine thing.
Well, I know you were saying too, like, you can't. I know you were saying too, you can't be an alpha female, and be ugly at the same time. She definitely wasn't the most attractive female, but like you said, as far as power goes, yeah, she definitely demanded power.
Well,
sure.
Okay, now I explain what I meant by that too. For what she is, she put herself out there the best she was for what she is. So men recognize when you are bringing us a substandard product, but substandard product is going to be relative to who you are. Case in point, there's only so much a female who is 4'2" can do. Some dudes might like that, but a lot of guys are going to be like, okay, I got a damn munchkin over here. There's also only so much that a female who's 6'5" can do. There's a number of different things. You got a lot of chicks in the WNBA. It's like, okay, but when you sit around here looking like Meadowlark, that's going to be a different matter. So what I'm saying is there's only so much you can do in those circumstances. You're going to have a certain type of build and a certain type of frame. And I'm not talking about where fat is concerned. If you have a slender build, if you're like Serena Williams and you have a more athletic build, there's only so much you can do. So I'm saying that for each woman, it's going to be relative, because as men, we don't judge them against, oh, how close to Beyonce are you, or how close to Pam Grier. We don't judge them based on that. We judge them based on, are you bringing us the best version of you? Because you're an individual. So we can't judge you against somebody else. We can only judge you against yourself. So being who you are, did you bring us the best version of you, or did you bring us some substandard version and told us, okay, deal with it, i.e. Lizzo?
Makes sense. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Folks, I want you to understand something. In the pursuit of knowledge, you don't have the luxury of deciding if you, quote unquote, like people or not. These are things for you to understand. These are things for you to understand. This is like the 48 laws of power. If this doesn't really illustrate how it is that so many people get that wrong. Remember, there was a reason why the 48 laws of power were banned in many prisons. That book, The 48 Laws of Power, that thing was banned in a lot of prisons in America. They wouldn't let inmates have it. They were scared to let them have it. You know why? Because Robert Greene went down what makes power work. He didn't attempt to say this is righteous power. This is correct power. This is moral power. This is power that serves all of mankind. He simply came at it from a standpoint of this is power that serves you. And that was the perspective he came at it from. That this is power that serves you. And for everybody else, it's going to be a different matter. But this is what will serve you. I think you are very well served to be able to take a look at things from that lens as well. That this is what serves you. And what Oprah did correct, those are things that serve. Now, did she use it for the benefit of, could she have used it better? Well, certainly. But we're talking about power. What is it that makes you an alpha? Power. I didn't say that it's power that serves everybody well. Power is just energy. It can serve the group. It can serve the individual. It can help the group. It can destroy the group. It can help the individual. It can annihilate the individual. Power is a tool. Now, what we're discussing about when it's cultivated and what you do with it from there, that's up to you. But for those of you who are trying to make this idea that, oh, we're going to sit up here and make a value judgment and a moral judgment. No, we don't make moral judgments. I would be disserving you if I did that. I discuss power dynamics on my Patreon. And for those of you who are not members of the Patreon, you understand something. There's a reason why on my Patreon, I refer to it as the dark arts of game. There's a reason why I call it that. I call it the dark arts because because the manner in which I present it is not for the sake of righteousness. I don't sit there and say, oh, here's some nice things that you can use it for, and this will make you a better husband, or this, that, and the other. It will make you a more powerful husband. It will make you a more powerful man. Hell, it'll make you more powerful women. I don't attempt to make value judgments other than this is valuable. I don't do that. And there were some people who called me out about that and were like, oh, these are things that can be misused. Well, I don't know what you mean by misused. I don't know what you mean by that. If you mean that it can be used against other people, well, that is what power does. I'm not here to tell you I'm going to present you with the power that cannot be used against other people, because by definition, that's not power. If I'm giving you something that is harmless, that's not power. It isn't. You're being fooled and deceived if you think that is, but that's not power. Power is something that can be used. It is also something that can be abused. As a matter of fact, if it cannot be abused, it's not power at all. If it cannot be abused, it is not power at all. Not at all. So don't start by taking a look at these things from a value judgment or a moral standpoint. There's a reason why they refer to some things as forbidden knowledge. There's a reason why certain things get called forbidden. They get called forbidden because these are things that people don't want you to know, because they understand it may give you power over them. It might give you power over them, and you might not be the best person for it. You might not be the best person for it. You may not be. But I believe that the best way to keep a check on irresponsible people with power is to make sure that responsible people have the same access to the same power. Think about that for a few moments. If only the irresponsible had it, because just because you think somebody's going to be responsible doesn't mean they will be. I believe the best way to keep the irresponsible in check is to make sure that the responsible are equally enabled. But you can't do that if you're out there censoring it. You're going to leave them handicapped and you're going to leave them helpless when somebody who actually does get a hold of it does. That's usually what actually tends to end up happening. You end up making the people you thought you were going to protect, you end up leaving them helpless. Because the irresponsible are going to figure out a way to do that. The irresponsible are going to find their way to power. The irresponsible are going to do that. That is what they do. The irresponsible are going to do that. I don't assume that you're going to be irresponsible, but by the same token, I don't assume that you will be. I believe that the people who respect power are ultimately going to use it best. Now, what I've done on tonight's program, by the way, this is a very potent bit of power as well. For the females who actually listen, it'll be very potent as well, because you've been deceived and in many ways bullied in recent months into thinking that there's no such thing as an alpha female, and there is. There absolutely is. You've been going about it all wrong. And if you lack the discipline to hone your skills at it, well, then there might as well not be such a thing as an alpha female. But for a few of you, you'll actually be able to turn this into something. For a few of you. But at least now you know how it works. If you are new here to the business, welcome to the program that laid the foundation upon which all of your red pill, MGTOW, high value posers, alpha male wannabes, and all these others have stolen and ripped off all the stuff that they'll be rewording next week and reworking it. Hell, probably going to be doing it tonight in some of their cases. Ain't that right, Kid and Heels? You're going to be able to hear it here live like you did here tonight. Go ahead and take notes on the game. Click that red subscribe button. Make sure you like and share the program. And if you haven't investigated joining our Patreon, you definitely want to do that as well. Our last program on Patreon, I had a Saturday broadcast that I did last week. I have not stopped getting accolades about that. People really loved it because I went step by step through some communication processes. I went step by step and disclosed to people specific techniques that I myself use, that I myself have utilized, things that I know for a fact work. I ran them through step-by-step scenarios. People really loved it. So definitely that's the kind of place there you're going to get that next level information for that here. So definitely check that out if you haven't. You're missing a whole lot over there. For everybody who was there, they know it was really, really great. Young man called in and let everybody know that a previous link that he had received from somebody who'd been listening to the program helped change his life. So this is the place where it happens. We don't just discuss high value. We create high value. We're the only place that does. So check that out if you haven't there as well. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business